Can your landlord increase your rent at this point? What are the legal criteria for rent increase in Nigeria? And we're going to go right into it. Welcome again to the Law and High, where law is made simpler and life is made better. I hope you subscribe to this channel and you continue to share this video as we continue to drop the banger. You share it with your friends, with your network, and I hope you've clicked the notification button. The last video I told you, I hope you have acted on it. If not, go right into it and click the notification button so that you'll be aware when we drop each video. And today I am still your host, Folakemi Jegede. Yoruba people will say, "Emi oni fellow mi shemi," that kind of thing. I'm still here for you. And today I'm going to be talking about something that is so rampant now. For the past 3 years, the world generally is going through recession, inflation, and Nigeria is not an exception. And people are lamenting one way or the other, whether you are a landlord, whether you are a tenant. I don't know who is having the upper hand right now, but there have been a huge concern. And what is it? Can your landlord increase your rent at this point? What are the legal criteria for rent increase in Nigeria? And we're going to go right into it. A lot of people, if you've not collected increase in rent, or you're a landlord, you've not increased your tenant rent, then listen to me. That means you are sitting on a long time, because in Nigeria right now, a lot of rent has been increased, doubled, 100%, 150%. And if you have not received, that means your landlord is a very considerable landlord. And landlord, I hear you. Well done. So let's break down what the law says about increments of rent in Nigeria. And the first thing I'm going to be talking about is that there must be a valid tenancy agreement. When we talk about valid tenancy agreement, it means that there must be an agreement that is written. And if it is written, it will clearly state the terms that guides the tenancy period. Number one, if your tenancy is for a yearly tenant, it will be clearly stated. It will also state whether the landlord has the right to increase your rent or when your rent is subject to renewal, and the right of the landlord to increase the rent. But if all these things are not there, then we fall back to the tenancy, the rent control of your state. For example, if you are in Lagos, then you also subject to landlord and tenancy law of Lagos State, depending on the different states that you are living in. So if that provision is not in your agreement for increment, then the normal statutory law guides that relationship. So the first thing, like I said, there must be a valid tenancy agreement, and it must be clearly stated for increment. Then if you want to increase rent, then notice must be given. I know a lot of people will be like, my tenancy is coming up. I'm renewing my tenancy next month, and you are serving me an increment this month. How logical can that be? So there is a provision, at least a 1 month notice, depending on the tenancy year that you are occupying, whether you are a yearly tenant or monthly tenant or half yearly tenant or a tenant at will. That guides that relationship. But a notice of increment must be given. It's not like you pay 2 million naira, and before you know, the next renewal and your landlord is sending you a message that no, you did not pay complete money, that your money now is now 5 million after you have paid the 2 million, that you should balance up. No, that is not the provision of the law. The provision of the law is that there must be a notice so that you can also prepare for it. And the third one, when it comes to increment, it must be reasonable. And over the years, based on the court provisions and the cases that have been delivered by the court, the things that the court look out of is the market value in that prevailing area. What is the worth of the rent in that area? That is one of the things that the court look out for. They look out for the reasonableness of the increment, the economic value in that area, and also inflation. I know a lot of people right now, you've collected letter from your landlord for increments. I've sent some to some people based on the properties that we are managing, for increments. And you look at the market value, you look at the economic value in that area, you look at inflation in that area. However, don't forget a notice to that must have been given and is also subject to the agreement between the landlord and the tenants. So, in state like Lagos, like I mentioned, under the tenancy law of Lagos State, rent can only be increased based on the mutual agreements of the parties, of course, based on the agreement, and also based on the prevailing inflation in that area. The fourth one is the rent must be reasonable. So the court does not fix rent for your house. However, the court look at the reasonableness of the increment, putting the factors that I have explained into consideration, the market value in that prevailing area, the property improvement. A lot of times the landlord has improved, added some things, finishing, decking, pop, different good and modernized things to the house to touch it up. The kind of landlord has the right to increase the rent, like I said, but it must be reasonable, and the reasonableness is subject to what a reasonable man see as a reasonableness. So, and it must be based on also the economic factor in the area. And the first and the 15 is no increase within a fixed term. No increase within a fixed time. What do I mean by that? You cannot have a rent, for example, that we have agreed on, that, for example, a lease for 3 years, and I'm expected to pay 20 million per year. And at the second month, you decided to increase my rent for the third month to 30 million. No, that is not allowed. That is unlawful because there is a fixed term. My lease is for 3 years. You cannot jump into the middle of the lease and say I should come and add more money. No, it's not allowed. So no increment should be done within a fixed term of a rent. That is not allowed, and that can be challenged in court. A landlord has a right to increase the rent of his property. So this is the duty on a tenant. A tenant has a right to accept the increment, to negotiate the increment, or leave the property. So you cannot just stay there without doing anything and insisting that you be there based on the last rent. No, you must put all these things that I've discussed into place before you know what to do. I understand that there have been a lot of so much increase in rent, but you have to, if you want to challenge such rent, you have to look at the market value in your vicinity and compare it to the rent that you are paying. So what are the rights available for a tenant that the rent has been increased? Number one, you must be justified that the rent is fair and put into consideration all the things that I've explained, the market value in your area, the economy, the inflation, and the proper improvement that have been done in the house. And in a situation whereby the rent is not fair, you can challenge that case in court for unfairness and maltreatment. And a lot of times it can also be seen as a punishment. You see some landlord that want to use the increment to send the tenant out of the property. So if you think and you believe that that is the aspect that the landlord is coming from, then you can also challenge such in court. And the law is clear that rent increment must be reasonable and within the ambit of law. I hope you learned something on this. And if you have any issue as to increments and the steps that you need to take, and if your rent has just been increased, don't hesitate. You can send a message to us and we can guide you on step by step ways on how you can navigate it and how you can get to a good stand with your landlord or with your tenant. Either party can reach out to us for more clarity. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your network. This is the Law and High, where law is made simpler and life is made better. Bye.